Hi, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Another week, another episode. Today, I am so excited to introduce to you someone that you may know as the COVID girl, COVID survivor, had a baby in a coma. I mean, Angela Primachenko's life is insane, and we all know she is a miracle, a walking miracle on the earth. But I know her way long before that. I am so honored, Ange, that you would sit here today and have this conversation with me because truly, we grew up in the same church, same youth group, and we go way back before you got famous over all this COVID stuff. And I have absolutely loved watching you grow, flourish, blossom into this incredible woman, wife, mama of 3 babies, a farmer.
No, girl. I have one cow.
She has a cow.
10
if
chickens.
you have a cow, you're considered a farmer.
I don't know. Just one, though. Actually, I guess 2 now.
Stop it right now. Are you serious?
Yeah, we do have 2.
Let's go. I just love how much this whole journey with what you went through with COVID has shaped you in the best way. And I want to dig in to the story because not just the story about COVID, but really how much and what God did through that journey. Who was Angela before? Who is Angela now? And yeah, girl, would you take us there? Give us all the important details. I want to know everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So before COVID, I was definitely long before COVID came, I was dead. And I feel like there was this part of me that just was so passive about life, so passive about everything.
She was dead before COVID came.
Mm-hmm.
Mic drop.
That's the truth. It's the truth. Honestly, sometimes you live life, but you're so dead. And I love God all my life. Grew up in a Christian home, grew up in the church, was very heavily involved. But I just kind of grew numb to the Lord, numb to his calling in my life. I had a lot of hidden fears. And then once I had this huge life trauma that happened, everything just kind of exploded. And I think sometimes it's like that. You know, you think you're like, oh, I got everything under control. And then you bump into a huge bump in life. And all of a sudden, all those little cracks in your boat become these huge things and you're sinking.
Go there.
And you're just like, oh, snap, what am I doing? I'm sinking. So that's what happened after my COVID journey. I remember everyone being like, you're such a miracle. I'm so glad you're doing so great. I even remember at Kingdom Movement, Roman's like, share your testimony. And I'm like, I am literally dying inside, but yeah, sure. I'll come up and share my testimony. And I get that there was 2 things happening at the same time. So I was both so happy that I survived this crazy, literally near death, but also struggling so hard to figure out how do I live now that my expectations of life are crushed. I was expecting to be a mom of 2 and have this baby be happy and everything be fine. I was not expecting to have a 3-pound preemie, a 10-month-old, to have national publicity, and then everyone being so happy that I'm okay. Meanwhile, I can't eat, I can't walk, I couldn't shower, and without sitting down because I lost 40 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
I mean, everything in my life just shattered. My expectations were
Can you
done.
take us back to that journey of, that feeling of being pregnant, getting COVID? Was that something you were concerned with in the beginning? How early was this into COVID?
Yeah, so this is the very, very beginning of COVID. I'm a respiratory therapist. And so I do remember coming to my OB and being like, hey, I'm pregnant. And I had, 2 pregnancies pretty close. My older was only 10 months old at this point.
That's wild.
Yeah. And so I was like, am I at risk at all? And she's like, no, you're fine. And I was like, okay, great, I'm fine. And so when I did get sick, I remember coming to the ER and the doctors, they took a chest x-ray and she was like, I think you have COVID. And I literally laughed. I was like, girl, no, there's no way I have COVID. Nobody has COVID. Only older people have COVID at this point. This wasn't something that was around. Nobody was masked. Everything was free. Life was, That was actually one crazy thing. So imagine going into a coma, everything's fine. You come out and you're like, what? The whole world changed in 21 days.
Drastically.
Drastically. So I get sick. I was alone, no visitors.
So you got hospitalized fairly quickly?
So the first time I came in, they're like, okay, go home until you get worse. Significantly worse is what they said. And I'm like, dude, I can't breathe at night. Like, I'm already doing pretty bad. And so like 3 days later, my husband's like, okay, I'm taking you in again. Like I'm gasping for breath. My fever's like 103. I just feel sick. Like, I just do not feel good. And so I was like, well, maybe they'll give me some like IV fluid or something to help me. So I come in, and everyone comes in like normally. And then all of a sudden everyone comes in with those yellow haz masks. And I'm just like, wait, what's happening? And my OB comes in and she's like, hey, the ER doc was going to send you home, but I want to keep you overnight. I feel like we need to like monitor you, make sure baby's doing okay, make sure you're doing okay. I'm 31 weeks pregnant at this point. Yeah, so that's where we're at.
So you're about to be intubated, and you know what that means, right?
Yeah.
Because you're a respiratory therapist.
Yeah. So at this point, I wasn't quite there yet. I still was at the hospital for like another 2 weeks, just like getting worse and worse.
Really?
And worse.
Before you got intubated?
Before I got
at the
intubated.
hospital for that long?
Yeah, so I was there 21 days total. Wow. So about 2 of those weeks, I was just progressively getting worse. And at this point, I had no fear, girl. I was just like, it's okay. I'm going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And then I end up in the ICU. And I'm gasping for breath, and I'm completely alone. My husband can't be there. I can't even talk to him. I have him on speaker, but I can't even say a word because I just don't have the energy to. I'm looking at the clock, and I'm just like, okay, 5 more seconds. I could just breathe for 5 more seconds. And I'm a respiratory therapist, and I literally was like, someone needs to intubate me. I can't keep doing this. Like, I'm literally going to die. But I'm not scared of death, but I'm just like, I can't do this. And so I pick up my phone, I text my OB, I'm like, hey, take care of my baby. Like, and so, yeah, she comes in, and actually it was amazing. One of my coworkers comes in, he prays over me right before I get intubated. And then I'm in my coma for 9 days. I have these horrific nightmares the entire time.
While you're in the coma?
While I'm in the coma. Just nightmares after nightmare after nightmare. And I remember all of them. It's just me literally fighting for my life. That was the entire 9 days. Meanwhile, the whole world is fighting for my life as well.
Truly.
I mean, it was God's grace. And so because I work in the medical field, I was looking back at my charts, and I was literally dying. Like, I got as close to death without actually dying as you could. So I'm pregnant. I'm getting worse and worse and worse. I'm still intubated. They're like, hey, you know what? We're going to deliver the baby, and hopefully she'll do better, because then I'll have more space. My lungs will do better. So they deliver the baby, and I get worse.
Yeah. You just casually said they delivered the baby.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? Because that is a true miracle in itself.
Yeah.
How in the world? By the way, friends, this was not a C-section.
No C-section.
Mm-mm. This was your body.
That's
doing
almost everyone's
its
like,
thing.
what? Yeah, isn't that wild?
That to me is mind blowing. If you don't believe in miracles, here's a miracle for you right there. Your body knew exactly what to do, Angela, and you were not even awake for it.
I know, it's wild. And that's what my doctor, she was like, you know, God literally like aligned all the things perfectly. Even the fact that I had my first so close, my body was like, oh, okay, we got this. Let's go. And so, yeah, sure enough.
So did your body naturally go into labor? How did that process take place?
I mean, I was there, but not really. So based on my...
based on the medical charts.
The medical charts. They did give me like medicine to try to help induce the contractions. Okay. And so the contractions started, but I was already contracting. My body was already like, hey, this isn't going to work. Like, we can't support another life and try to keep supporting your life. You know, like we need to progress things. So yeah, they deliver while I'm in a coma, and I actually have a video of it, which to me was actually a little bit healing, because I remember waking up. So I'm waking up, and they have posters up, and it was like baby Ava, and I'm like laying there, and it took me probably a good like 4 or 5 hours until I'm like, what happened? And then I was like, oh my gosh, I had my baby. Like, what?
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was kind of wild. But yeah, so the baby gets delivered.
So was your husband there?
No, nobody was there. Nobody. But he was able to see Ava. So that was nice.
Can you tell us what Ava means?
Yeah. So actually we chose her name way before, obviously, all of this. I really loved Ava, but David didn't really he wasn't set on it. So when he chose Ava, he chose her name because we didn't actually make a decision. And then he gave her middle name Angela, which I'm like, oh, I mean, it's sweet, but it's also had I passed away, that's actually the sweetest. I don't know. It's kind of like a double, wow.
Wow.
But yeah, so her name means breath of life.
Breath of life.
And she literally.
Yeah, that is wild.
Yeah. It was
that
amazing.
Is so prophetic how God led the whole thing through and through.
Yeah. But yeah, so I deliver her, and instead of getting better, I get worse, a lot worse. They call my husband. They're like, hey, we think she's not going to make it. And a lot of my coworkers, they're like, you were as close as as deathly sick. People say that. Yeah. That was where I was at.
So I remember, sorry for interrupting, but Ivan, who is a nurse in the ICU, he was telling us, the scientific reality of what was happening, because sometimes, when you're in the spirit waging war, and he was like, well, the reality is she's probably not going to make it. And I remember when he said that, everything inside of me, I know there was multitudes of people just going to town in the spirit for your life.
Yeah.
Can I share one moment? I remember, we both know Jacob Castanon. He's our friend. He showed up to my house to pick up my keyboard because he had to borrow it for something. And I forget what the occasion was. But I was like, come inside right now. Before you take this thing, get behind the keyboard. We're going to sing and prophesy over Angela. Wow. And I just remember, I just made him come in. He was not even planning on get behind the keys, because we have to wage war in the spirit, and we just worship for a good 15 minutes. Wow. And we just, I don't know, there was something so powerful that was happening. I love when the body unites around this thing, and it was so faith filled. And I remember just being so excited for what was going to take place in the end, because and that's why I think so many people after the miracle itself, they're like, you're a miracle. You feel like you're a survivor because you barely made it. But
that's a good way to put it.
Right? So your husband gets the call that she's probably not going to make it. What is happening inside of him?
He'd have to be here to tell you. But yeah, I think even for him, it was a huge, just wild. He understood too the gratitude of it, because I'm a respiratory therapist. He understood. So I think for him, that's when it hit home. He was like, oh my gosh, I might lose my wife. This is it. So yeah.
So then things got really bad.
Yeah.
And then when did things?
Literally the day before he gets a call, she's going to die. The next day he gets a call, hey, she's extubated.
What?
Literally,
I didn't know this.
God's miracle. There is no reason why I should have gotten better as quickly as I did. It's just the power of prayer. Yeah.
Wow.
It was wild. But yeah, so I'm extubated. Totally what the heck just happened? I can't walk. Just gave birth. So postpartum in its own is a little bit tough. I had pneumonia. I had heart damage. Wow. I had COVID. I had a central line. I actually still have a scar from it because they had to pump so much medication in me. I am hallucinating. I don't know what's happening. I don't know where I am. I'm
still alone.
I'm still alone. Everyone's coming in these yellow masks and gowns. And I'm just like, what is happening? Wow. And then finally, life kind of, I'm like, okay, wow, I'm doing well. Life is good.
Did you wake up on your own? Were you alone in the room?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there was people in there. I don't remember waking up. I don't remember the actual extubation. They were saying I was answering things, but I don't remember any of that up until probably a day after I was extubated is when I first have memory of just being in the room and just the basics of, the ICU.
And I remember you sharing, correct me if I'm wrong, this realization that there was no baby inside of you.
Yeah. I'm laying there and I'm like, wait, wow. I don't have my baby. And at this point, I had so much idea of what I wanted my life to look like, right? Wow. Every mom does. And so I was pumping, but I had a pump and dump for 14 days because of the medication they gave me. So it could have processed in my milk. So, okay, I'm 40 pounds, lost 40 pounds. I'm waking up every 2 hours to pump. I am shaking weak. I can't sit in a chair because the amount of muscles you use in a chair is actually quite astonishing whenever you don't have them.
Wow.
I am so weak. I am so tired. One doctor comes in, he's like, hey, you're going to be here for another month until you are test negative. And then literally the next day, this doctor's like, actually, you can just go home. And I'm like, okay, I'll go home. So I go home and I desperately want my life to look like the image that I had imagined in my life. And with all my strength, I'm holding on to this idea of life that I've created, this image, but my life and my idea and my reality are not matching up. And I don't know how to invite God into that. Because I'm like, God, like, I love you and I serve you, but I am getting panic attacks. I'm crying every single night. I am struggling. I'm struggling to breathe. I'm struggling to eat. I have no help. It's COVID. People can't come over. People can't just, and I'm positive. I'm like still COVID positive. No one's going to come to my house. Yeah. I mean, David was with me, obviously, but I couldn't even see my baby. She was in the NICU until I had 2 negative COVID tests. And so I can't remember exactly, but I think it was like 17 days after she was born that I was even able to hold her. And so I remember coming into her room, and at first I remember weeping just because I'm like, oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden this guilt came in. I'm like, it's my fault that like you're here. Had I not gotten sick, had I not done that, like you would have been fine and like life would have been normal. And so I just remember the enemy attacking me in every single aspect, just throwing guilt on me, fear of failing her, fear of failing my idea of motherhood, my idea of what I wanted to do and how I wanted my life to look, and my fear of hardship. I started avoiding hardship at all costs. And then finally I feel like things started to change when I was like, you know what? I can do hard things. Yeah. And God is going to give me strength to do this. I am not a victim to this trauma.
Fear of hardship early on, like, was that something that was like a part of your life?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think it was one of those cracks in the boat where it was just like I was kind of always scared of having hardship. And I had a lot of people pleasing. Oh, the people pleasing thing was tough, especially when you're on national news. And now all of a sudden, everything you're saying, did you talk about God enough? Did you not talk about God enough? Did you do this enough? Did you not do this enough? And now I'm just like, I don't know how to process all of this. I'm getting news reporters. The message that we have on the news channel, like one-on-one, is like this, but then they crop it out and now it's a little different. And you're like, wait, but we talked about other stuff. Those weren't included. And so now it's just like so much of just, I had to literally relearn how to invite God into hardship. For me, my like trauma, I couldn't even label it as trauma. Everyone would be like, how are you? I'm like, I'm great. Like, life is great. I'm fine. I just want to go back to normal.
I'm supposed to be a miracle, but I'm surviving
I just
trauma.
want to go back to normal. I want life to be normal, and it's not. It's not good, and it's not normal, and it's hard, and it's harder than I can handle. And I'm doing everything right. I'm praying. I'm worshiping. I'm doing everything right, but it still sucks. So what do I do?
Wow. You know, what's interesting, I have just in my own journey of specifically with grief, I used to think grief was just something you feel after someone dies. But I realized the importance of grief and being able to mourn things in our life.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important and crucial with seasons in our life.
Yeah.
And in a way, I think you were grieving this old life because now you're literally being, I mean, you just walked in, you're like, man, I feel like people are still recognizing me for COVID like last week.
Yeah.
And you're like being recognized all the time for this thing that is now defining you to the world. And so would you say that in that, like, you wanted life to move on so quick because you're just trying to get back to normal, but there is no normal. Now you have to find the new normal. So how did you navigate that, even timeline, I guess, even as a new mom to like a second born? I mean, two babies, really, because your oldest was 10 months, you said?
Yes. Yeah. My oldest was 10 months. Ava was 3.5 pounds when I took her home.
That's harder than twins, I hear.
That's what I hear too, but I haven't had twins. But yeah,
because their schedule. Shout out to Oksana, her twin. We love her.
Yeah, because the schedule is not on the same schedule. You know, one is napping, the other one's up. This and that. I feel like, I mean, I don't know. It was So how did I navigate that? I think I had to really learn how to trust God again. There was a little part of me that when you go through really, really hard seasons and you don't actually like feel God's presence, it's not like I felt his hands. Another thing too, everyone's coming up to me, Ange, you have no idea what you brought us through. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for the hardship you faced while I was in a coma. I can't tell you. I probably had over 100 people just be like, it was so hard for me while you were in a coma. And I'm just like, I don't know how to process myself. How do I process other people's emotions? How do I do this? Wow. But literally relearning to, and honestly, it was hard to trust people. Everything, just everything in my life felt like it just got like uproot. And I hated, like you were saying, people were like the COVID girl. Oh, I hated that so bad. I'm like, I'm more than that. God has more for me. Like I just wanted to fight it almost. But I almost had to surrender to it. I'm like, you know what? I did go through that hardship and it was hard. And God did take me through this. And God has been so faithful. I have met God so intimately through this hardship. I am so thankful. The best thing that ever happened to me was for me to almost die from COVID.
Wow.
It changed who I am. It made me trust God
the
beyond my limits.
Hardship.
Yeah, beyond, absolutely, beyond my limits, beyond my strength, beyond, because I didn't have the strength. I didn't have the ability. I didn't know how to process it. I didn't know how to go through it. I could relate to nobody.
Wow.
There was nobody I could call and be like, hey, so remember that one time you were in a coma and you gave birth? How did you get through that? Nobody. I felt so alone. I'm like, God, you're the only one that I can relate to in this. How can I hold on to you like never before? How can I just grip onto you? And so I had to relearn how to do that. And actually your wild course was one of the first stepping stones. I kind of fell into this, like, I didn't want to do anything in isolation.
Yeah.
That's what the enemy loves to do. Not only does he like destroy your life, he also wants you to isolate yourself.
Go there.
And so my husband, I remember but he had to force me every single week to go to life group. It wasn't because
Don't apologize. Thank you, David. Thank you, David.
It was because I was just like, I don't have the emotional capacity to go anywhere. I'm not sleeping. My girls are up. I don't have the ability to do it. But every time I came, I literally would just sit in the room. Sometimes I wouldn't say anything, but just being in the atmosphere of people who love the Lord and who can speak life. And I think genuinely that was like the first step to like, first of all, realizing how dark of a place I had gotten to, because I was like, yeah, I'm so good. I'm so happy. I'm so good. I'm so happy. I'm so good. I'm so happy. I'm actually not so good. And this actually kind of is really hard, but I don't know how to like undo it now. So I'm just going to keep pretending. And I didn't even tell David. I would cry every single night to sleep. I wouldn't even tell him about it because how do I say that? I'm supposed to be a miracle. I'm supposed to be happy. My baby survived. Many people's babies didn't. Every single person in the ICU bed died except me. Wow. I should be happy. So how dare I complain about hardship? And then I think that was the enemy that was like, yeah, you should be silent in your hardship.
Wow.
And finally God was like, hey, I was there.
Wow.
And so I think like just having God be so dear during the moments that nobody saw, and the strength that he gave me and how he changed who I am. I feel like the way I look at life, the way I look at people, the way hardship specifically, I'm not scared of hardship anymore because I've been through hardship and God's been there with me, and it didn't look the way I wanted it to. Life didn't plan out the way I had planned it to. Things got a lot harder than I wanted them to get. But somehow the strength wasn't mine anymore, and it really was the Lord, and he's just so gentle and so caring and so kind, and he knows how to get you through that.
Come on, girl. I think right now you are relating to so many people, even as walking through something so unique, but still being able to relate to so many of us who are afraid of hardship. I just think about this famous psalm when we quote, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. But we're bound to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Mm-hmm. And I think to see how refined and sharpened even just when you're talking about intimacy with the Lord, it's like you've been there with him. You've been in the shadow of death.
Yeah.
And he's been there with you.
And I fought for it.
Yeah.
I think people think that like intimacy with God comes passively.
Wow.
It doesn't. No relationship comes passively. Have you had any relationship in your life that passively got intimate and close and deep? No.
Sometimes we think marriage will. Like, if I get married, it's just going to become.
Yeah, no. It won't just become.
No. Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about it. The fight for intimacy.
Yeah, I had to fight. I had to fight to attend to these life groups. I had to fight to read scripture and to believe it. I had to fight. I think one thing too is those, so there's a scripture that says God revealed the hidden lies that are in my heart. And I'm like, God, what is it in my heart that the enemy's been telling me? What lies am I believing? So I think these last like 4 years has been unraveling these subtle lies that are so subtle, you know, that, okay, like I just need to be strong enough. I just need this. I just need that. God's not. The fear of man thing. Are people going to think this and that? And I feel like God is just like, and rejection too. It's so crazy that there was a part of me that felt rejected from the fact that nobody was able to be there for me. And so then I was so scared to ask for help. It was nobody's fault. Nobody could. But I was like, okay, that's it. I can't ask for help. I need to be strong enough. I can't do anything. Like my whole view, like God is just like, hey, actually, you're really accepted. Actually, I really love you. Actually, I'm really there for you. Actually, I have a purpose for you. Actually, all these things that I'm just like, oh my goodness. And it made me deal with those weeds that were crippling me and just truly crushing me. But yeah, I'm literally, Oksana says this actually all the time. She's like, Ange, you're literally a different woman.
Wow.
She's
and
like,
Oksana knows.
She knows.
She is your twin.
She's
she is your womb mate.
She's like, she's literally my womb mate. Yeah, she always says this. She's like, you came to life after COVID. But it took a long time. I'm not going to lie. It took me like probably 9 months after Ava was born to where just even the haze was like lifted. And so it was just this like, you know, you put in a ballot every day of who you want to be. And if you put enough ballots, that's what's going to win you over. Having one day where you're having an off day, that doesn't mean that's who you are. Having one moment where you lose your patience or you don't trust God, that doesn't mean who you are. But if every day you choose to put in, hey, I'm going to trust today, right now, I'm going to make it through. I'm just going to focus on like the next like 3 hours. I could do 3 hours. You know, I could, especially when the kids were really hard, I'm like, okay, I can probably, I have another hour in me. And then after I get through the hour, I'm like, wait, I did that hour. I'm pretty sure I could do another hour. And
good
that's
advice, Ange. Good advice.
That's where it started. You know, you start trickling through and you start just grinding. And after enough votes, that's who you become. You become a woman of courage. You become a woman of patience. You become a woman of faith. You become a woman of trust. Trust doesn't just happen. It gets built, and you choose to do that day in and day out and day in and day out. And nobody likes to hear that.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to hear that. Nobody wants to put in the work.
We like the microwave experience.
Oh, give it to me. I want it now.
It quick.
I want it yesterday. I wanted to wake up from my coma and just be like, hallelujah. Somebody.
I am a miracle.
A miracle. Anybody wants healing? Like, I'm about to pray for you. That's what I wanted to wake up from. But instead, I woke up to what just happened to my life.
Wow.
But now, heck yeah, anybody want healing? Like, God is good. He is faithful.
Go.
But it took that chiseling of
that's right,
of fear and, you know, all those other dumb things that like my mind was sending me. Like, you don't have to believe every dumb thought your mind sends you.
You know, it's interesting. I think you almost, you know, obviously it was a long season, but also it feels like you had this like accelerated process of maturity.
Girl, that's why I'm saying I'm so thankful I went through it.
Has led you into this place where I'm like, you are a different woman.
I am, and I'm so thankful for it. I tell this to David all the time. I'm like, the worst thing that would have happened to me is for me to stay the same.
Wow.
And stay stuck. Like, staying stuck sucks.
That's right.
It sucks. Nobody wants to stay stuck. Like, let's move on. Put in the work. You're going to pay the price anyways. If you don't put in the work, you're going to pay the price by being sad, by being grumpy, by being overwhelmed, by having anxiety, by having fear, by having all these things. And that is work. That sucks. But if you put in the work, a different type of work, you're going to become who you want to become.
Let's go. You're preaching now, girl. That's powerful. I do want to go back a little bit to you mentioned, you know, your twin Oksana said that you were a different person. How did the aftermath of everything affect your relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Marriage, friendships. I'm sure there was a lot of rewiring happening there too.
A lot. I was a very insecure friend. And I feel like I was always...
I just love the honesty, Ange.
No, I would just be like, oh, like, I'm such a good friend to so-and-so, but they're not reaching back out to me. I'm doing this and that, and they're not doing this. And it was so transactional. And like my relationship with God was so transactional. My relationship with my husband, everything was tallied. You know, I fed the kids. I was up all night. So you need to do this. Everything was a tally. And it was my, I think, preservation of hardship. Because I'm like, I can't be too hard. So I'm going to give this much, but I can't give more than that. And so then same thing with friendships. I can't be too vulnerable because what if I get hurt? I can't do this and that. And so there was this like, it's so funny because what I really wanted was deep friendships. And what I was doing was pushing friendships away by keeping this wall of like security. But after nearly dying, I'm like, you know, I got too close to death to stop living now. I can't just start dying. Like I need to live. I need to live my life and I need to let people in. I need to be vulnerable. I need to reach out. And if I need to reach out 5 times, then okay. Like if the Lord is putting a friendship on my heart, let me pursue it. Let me pursue my marriage. My marriage got transformed. We started marriage counseling, not because of the trauma necessarily, and not because we were struggling, but because we weren't thriving.
Yeah.
We were just kind of making it through.
That's so good.
I feel like since we've started talking through things, we learned how to like communicate with each other. That was like the biggest thing. Like I feel like David saw my heart. I was able to see his heart. And after this, like becoming a new person, I think it made my life not so self-centered. Everything was like me. And I feel like the Lord is really helping me be like, hey, Ange, what about like loving those around you? How, like my biggest goal for this, I think the last 4 years, like the constant thing is, how do I love well? How do I love well the people around me? What does that look like? How can I love my husband well? How can I love my children well? How can I love my friendships well? Like what does it look like to love well? And I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but well, you know?
That's right. You know, it's so powerful what you're saying right now. Even loving well, it takes courage to love well. Yeah. And it actually takes courage to get out of the comfort zone. So I think even in marriage, we get to this place where we just get stuck, but we're also comfortable. Yeah. And here's the reality is that we do not grow in comfort.
Yep.
We do not, I say this all the time.
So good.
We do not grow. We do not go to the next step. We do not go to the next level. Yeah. We are actually dying. And I think what you're saying right now is your life before you were living, but you felt like you were actually dead.
Yeah.
The reality of that is that in comfort, we are dying.
Absolutely.
And so I want to know, like with, you know, some of these things, some of these steps of faith that you took, just to be able to love well, to be able to go to the next level with your marriage. I think it's so funny. I just want to say this about marriage. It's hilarious how the people that actually want to grow in marriage, they're the ones that are pursuing like marriage counseling or like, let's get into a marriage group. But the people that are actually having issues are like, we're fine. I'm fine. And I just remember being that person because there was such a fear of being perceived that I'm struggling or my marriage is struggling or, you know, my husband and I, you know, don't actually have a great marriage. But I think it's wild how we get to this place of growth where the people that are like desiring growth the most are typically the ones that are actually thriving the most. Yeah. And so it's powerful. I love what God has done on the other side of this for you. I think it's powerful to see your platform in your ministry be almost like God was like birthing everything in this process. Like in the hardship is when we're formed. I know that that's such a huge message in my life. I think in the process of death is when we actually come to life. Yeah. It's like when unless the seed falls into the ground and dies, it cannot produce fruit. And so I think it's so powerful, like watching you even like physically go through that journey. And now on the other side, being so bold, so courageous with some of the things that you say. I love it, and I'm here for it. Talk about the journey of writing, your story. I think one thing that you and I have in common is that we're first-time authors. Yay! You did this last year. You actually released your book with a publisher.
Yes.
And crazy story. Like, maybe talk about how that, came about, how you even, would sit down to write. I don't even know how you do that as a mom with little babies.
Yeah. Somebody gave me this advice, actually. They said the only book you can't edit is the one that's not written. And so I stopped trying to write perfect. Wow. I would just write. It's okay. Like, if it's not perfect, it's not perfect. You can always edit it. But sometimes I got like caught up in like, oh, it doesn't sound right enough, or it's not So I just started writing. My husband was very on board. So he it was literally every evening I just set a goal. It was like 40 minutes every evening. And I would just write as much as I could, and then I'd move on. Then I'd write as much as I could, then I'd move on. But actually, real quick, backtrack to what you were saying about out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the hard part about leaving the comfort zone is when it's already so hard, it's scary to make that step. Because when you're already like, okay, but what if they're going to make me work? I don't have the energy to work. I'm already giving all of me to maintain this. How can I get better? So what would be your advice for that? Because I think a lot of people, their issue for getting out of the comfort zone and wanting more intimacy, more friendships, more whatever, they already feel like they're at their brim. Like, my marriage is already struggling. What if they tell me I need to work on it more? I'm already trying to bite my tongue. What if they say what if I'm the issue?
Yeah.
What if this and this and that? What if I am vulnerable and then I get hurt? What now?
That's such a great question, because I feel like it really touches on, I just remembered in my healing journey, I did a thing called Genesis Process, which was amazing for that season that I walked through. But there was a chapter in there that said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. The reality is the what ifs are always going to feel that way.
That's so good.
Like, okay, I'm gonna not thrive if I don't take the step, and I might fail if I take the step. So the reality is, it's like
there's a risk either way.
There has to be a risk.
Yeah.
And so I think what you're risking is the fruitfulness of your long-term life. And so I always say this, even, with my own story of living no longer afraid, that your best life is actually on the other side of fear. It's actually facing the giants. And the thing is, some of us get to do that, and we face the giants and we get to the other side. But a lot of the people that are watching the people that are facing the giants, it's really easy for those people to be like, easy for her.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
all the time. So people tell me all the time, they're like, oh, it's not hard for you to do this and that. I'm like, oh, yeah? Well, thank you for letting me know, because I thought it was hard.
Yeah. Because anytime we're in the comfort zone, we think those that are risking it are actually doing it because it's easy for them.
Yeah.
And so there is no easy way.
Absolutely.
But the reality is that you're wasting your entire life versus, oh, I'll just risk. Okay, like if I am that insecure friend, the reality is all that insecurity, all that fear is like a house of cards. It's going to at some point go, it's going to just fall. Yeah. So might as well let it fall now and actually allow the Lord to build the life that you want to live and draw out the purpose and watch yourself come alive, then reach some place where you felt like you've achieved something. You know, a lot of people are in their brokenness trying to achieve something in their life, and they get to the peak of that. You know, I've had conversations with people that have achieved so much in their life, and like I'm talking like gold medals, and that gold medal didn't do anything. Why? Because all of it was just a search for purpose. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, purpose is only found in the Lord, And when we go after that purpose, it's going to involve risks. It's going to involve, AKA, not just reading the word, but obeying the word. And so I love that when you talk about some of the things that God was teaching you, like to love well. I mean, that's like 2 words that are very hard to do. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that that's what Jesus tells us to do.
Yeah.
And so to love well is to die, is to die for yourself, is to continue this journey of learning to live surrendered. And so there's no easy way. So
yep. Sorry, we have the bad news. The good news that it's not going to be easy.
But the good news is when you've tasted freedom.
Yes.
And you know this.
Oh yeah.
Freedom is addicting.
It really is.
You taste it and you just can't go back. Yeah. Now it's just like, okay, let's peel back every layer so that I can.
Because it's still going to be there.
That's right.
So if you're struggling with anger, it's not like you can just Band-Aid it off. You need to deal with it. It's going to pop up in different areas. I think that's what the sneaky thing is about pride, about all these things. It's so sneaky. Yeah. You don't even realize how it's in your life. You don't even realize how you're like, oh, my like fear of attachment or fear of being hurt, fear of whatever. It's actually affecting everything.
That's right.
And so the more you deal with it, the more you're going to thrive in all the other areas.
That's right.
That's so powerful.
Yeah, girl. Okay, back to your book.
Oh, yes. Sorry.
I want to hear. No, this was a really, really powerful tangent.
Yeah. Okay. So I would write that. And then, so even how I started writing, I really felt like the Lord was just very clear. He was like, hey, you need to write your book because people need to hear this. And so my goal in writing the book was just kind of share my story. It's actually kind of similar to your layout in the sense of, well, yours is like topical.
Yeah.
Mine is just a story. And at the end of each chapter, I wanted to include something where they could reflect, something that was actually useful.
Love it.
Because my greatest joy in life is seeing other people thrive. Like I genuinely am so excited when I see somebody who just does so well with life. I'm like, yes, thank you, Jesus, that like somehow I'm able to get this person to see you better or be closer to the Lord or whatever. There's so much fulfillment in that. And so that was my goal in writing it. And then after that, I wrote it. Then I had a few people help me edit it. I had a few friends read through it. Then I was going to do self-publishing through Amazon. Did I do that? I think I did. I released through Amazon for like a month. And then I took it off because I heard back from one of the publishing agencies and they were just like, hey, we'd actually like to publish you. It was in England. And so they published me. And now I'm a published author.
That's right. And it's called
it's called Breath of Life.
Breath of Life,
which is Ava's name.
Ava's name.
Yeah, that was kind of it was fun.
So powerful.
It was definitely an act of obedience. I think sometimes people feel like I need to like want to do it. I didn't want to do it. I'm not an author. I don't want to. I don't care for that stuff. Like being obedient to God. I think that's one thing where I'm like, God, I will be foolishly obedient to you.
That's
always.
Right.
Again and again and again. Again and again and again. And so you don't follow your passions or just your feelings or just your emotions. You follow his guidance and his word. And I feel like the Lord really clearly spoke to me and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And we did it. And I feel like everything in my life has just been like, the Lord's like, hey, Angela, actually, I want you to do this. I'm like, okay. Okay, Angela, I want you to do this. Okay. And that fear is gone now. Goner. I still work with it. I feel like sometimes it's sneaky. Sometimes, especially the people pleasing thing.
But doesn't awareness help?
It helps, but it's annoying. I'm like, at this point, I shouldn't be fearful of people at all. But on the way here, I was like, what if I say something wrong? What if somebody misinterprets it? What if this and then I was like, Angela, stop it. It's sneaking up on you.
True. It's true.
It's sneaky. So you have to deal with it all the time. I wish it was this one time, one done, but I do. I am a lot more aware. That's right. I deal with it then. So I'm like, wait, nope, I'm not going to partner with this. I'm going to go ahead and let go. Nope, I'm not going to, So there's a lot more like freedom in that.
100%. Because awareness is that first step into maturity. Because you're actually allowing yourself to be aware.
Okay, so what's step 2? So we're aware. What's step 2? Because some people are aware of it. Some people are aware of their issues.
I think the reality is awareness is just the doorway. And everything else is like obedience. It's obedience to the process. It's obedience to, obedience to taking those thoughts captive.
Yeah, you do it anyways.
Yeah, Because it's so easy, like what you're saying, it's so easy to go back. It's so easy to linger in the fear of man or people's perception of me, or how, I was not taken seriously, or whatever it is. Like, a lot of us deal with so many different areas of what fear, how fear or how insecurity can manifest in our life. But I think to identify and then actually go after it. And I think relationally, a lot of that is, I am like convinced that so much of obedience to the Lord looks very, very, very practical. And I just don't like how much people often over spiritualize obedience. I'm like,
yes,
you know what? If God's challenged you in that relationship, go set up that coffee date and go repent and go actually have the conversation. Do the practical things, friends, because it's those practical steps that actually you look back 6 months, you're like, whoa, I'm a different person.
Absolutely. David just told me yesterday, he's like, Ange, what has changed about you recently? And I'm like, I just chose to stop being a nagging wife. Like, you choose to stop doing that. I'm like,
And all the wives said, amen.
Well, it's hard to do. My goodness. It's hard. Sometimes I'm like, but I just want to tell him, don't do it. Totally. So it's like, you just practically stop it. Like, stop it. Stop being like, you're so right. It's just the practical things. And it's crazy because God is so spiritual. And so there is so much spiritual weight, but there's also life, which is also like, just do it.
Which I think is such a spiritual part.
Yes.
I think that stop nagging is actually one of the most spiritual things that you could do, because all of a sudden, instead of breaking your man down, you're building him up.
And you're trusting God.
Yes.
Because it's a double whammy. You're not only are you becoming a better wife, you're becoming a better Christian. Most things that you fall into obedience with Lord, it's not just, I didn't just write a book. I learned how to trust God in the process. I didn't just stop being a nagging wife. I learned to surrender my control. I learned to surrender my ideas and being like, God, you actually do a much better job of convicting people than I do. And so I'm just going to trust you. And I started praying for people. Who would have thought how much strength comes in that? Like, there's some people in my life who've been hard, just relationally hard. I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start praying for them.
Girl, that's
and
so
God
powerful.
just like softened my heart. Turns out I was the problem. Shocking. Like, I was the one that was being stubborn. I was the one that was thought I knew best. I was the one that was whatever. It's like, dude, just be humble, seek God, and say yes. Say yes again and again and again to the Lord. And literally, I feel like it's always together. If you're being obedient in your actions, your spiritual will match up to that. It's always both,
Wow, that's so good. You know what? Be that person that prophesies over their spouse's pillow. So when their head goes on that pillow at night, there is going to be powerful transformation. I think some of us, it's, I've had conversations with people like, well, it's easy for you. Your husband loves the Lord and he's just and the reality is, y'all, everybody is human. And it doesn't matter how sometimes we perceive people to be outside of marriage. Marriage is, can have its own challenges, whether you're thriving outside of that or not, whether you're with the Lord or not. And so to me, I just have been a witness of praying, like what you're saying about friends. Like, I've watched things manifest in Vic's life that are so like truth manifest, but I'm like, oh my goodness, I remember, like, I've journaled about this, like I prayed this over his pillow, I prophesied this into existence, and then it catches life and you get to be this like, cheerleader on the sidelines, like, I already saw this happen in the spirit. And so I think it's so powerful. I love that we're touching on relationships, because there's so much that can happen in the power of prayer. We have the ability to see people by the Spirit and call them out as if they already are. And so even if, I just want to say this, in your struggle in marriage, like, you have the ability to prophesy things into your spouse's future. Like, speak life, not death, life. A lot of times we want to speak death to them, but then, it's really hard to pray for them behind closed doors after that. But when you start getting the heart of the Father towards your spouse, I think things just shift in you where it causes a different response because there's a different belief system towards them now. And so, Ange, that's so powerful. Thank you for just being so open, transparent,
absolutely
vulnerable. I think I have just loved.
I do have one more thing I wanted to add to what you're saying.
I've just loved you, like just being like, here I am. This is the new me, and I think that's what people are tasting.
Yes,
this aftermath, just of you just coming alive. So yeah, go ahead, like share whatever you want.
Okay, last thing, sorry.
No, this is amazing.
So you mentioned this, how people like to compare hardships. This happens all the time.
Okay.
All the time. So you were saying how people are like, well, your marriage is this, my marriage is harder. I had the opposite thing. Like, oh man, my COVID is so hard. Oh, but it wasn't as hard as yours. Like, I know you had it much worse, or this and that. And people like to compare hardships. And it's like, dude, just stop. Like, the only comparison is, are you the you God has called you to be?
Wow.
That's it. That's the only comparison you need. You don't need to compare to Anastasia. Wow. You don't need to compare to Angela. You don't need to compare to blah, blah, blah. Or marriages. Just, are you the wife that God has called you to be?
So good.
Are you the friend that God has called you to be? Are you the you that God has called you to be? And that's it. And all these weird comparisons, because it happens everywhere and sneaky. It's like as if it's like, oh, but you have it, this and that. It doesn't seem like you're comparing, but you are, girlfriend. Let it go. Like, just be the you that God has called you to be.
Yeah. Ultimately, compare yourself to the Lord. And be
yes.
Like, ooh, what am I missing that?
Yes. Well, yes, absolutely.
Still needs to get. Well, what you're saying too is like, you know, it's you and the Lord, and the reality of that is that that's when we actually are able to confront things in our life.
Yes.
Because comparison keeps us from confronting areas in our own heart. So, girl, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I am so just encouraged and filled with faith about not being afraid of hardship. Today, we are not going to be afraid of hardship because hardship forms us. Hardship helps us look more like Jesus. And that is what true disciples do. They look more like Jesus. They love like Jesus loves. And so I just really appreciate this conversation, friend.
Thank you.
Any last, maybe advice, maybe something that you can speak into someone that is facing like a really challenging thing in their life right now. I know you just have so much, just have that breath of life that you bring.
Yeah.
So maybe speak to those.
I would just say, if you're in a season that it feels like it's too hard to keep going, then just come to God. I know that sounds so like, but just again and again and again, be vulnerable, find someone to talk to. I think don't let it cripple you, because it's already so hard to be in hardship, but like there's no reason to stay there. And so it's just a choice of having to get out every single day. And yeah, I mean,
that's powerful.
God is powerful.
Yes.
God is really powerful. He's stronger than your hardship. He really is. And even if it feels like you're weaker, that might feel the reality. And your marriage might be harder than you can handle, whatever. Everything might be harder than you can handle, but it's not harder than God can handle. And so he'll help you through it. So that would be my...
So good, Ange. Go to the Lord sounds cliche, but it's actually the most powerful and profound truth.
It's simple.
Because when you actually do it, you experience the life that comes through it. And so, yes and amen.
And keep going to him, even if it feels dry. I think that's what's hard. Because when you come to him, you're like, I am reading. I am doing that. And you're not hearing me. It's still hard. I hear you. It was hard. And I still did it. And my husband had to help me. But I did it. I showed up again. And I'm not saying it was my works, but I was partnering with the Lord instead of partnering with my hardship. And you have to choose to do that again and again and again.
Let's go.
So,
well, Paul says run the race with endurance.
Yes.
And sometimes
that's hard.
we lack endurance. Let's be real.
Not in our prime life and everything's fast.
So we just speak endurance over you. We speak a second wind. When you're so fatigued, but there's that second wind that kicks in, the wind of the Holy Spirit,
Jesus.
The breath of life, in Jesus' name. Thank you so much, Ange. I'm so happy we had this finally. We've been trying to put it on the calendar for so long. Friends, I really hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please share it with people who might feel completely understood in their own season. And yeah, shout out to all the mamas raising babies and toddlers. You are doing a very powerful work. And I just want to commend you for that, and commend you, Ange.
That is endurance right there.
Yes.
Toddlership will grow you.
That's right.
Toddlership will grow you.
We're in the midst.
Oh, I love it though.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining. We love you, and see you next time.